I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Verification of proper public notice.
The meeting tonight was properly noticed.
Okay, let minutes show that all are present. Do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda? Yes, you want to step up to the mic, please?
Good evening.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, good evening. My name is Raleen Marslander. I'm on the board for, at the Valley View Recreation Club, and unfortunately we received a letter from the board, but unfortunately the letter arrived the day after the meeting. So I'm here tonight with my husband just because we wanted to find out what had gone on at the meeting and also defend ourselves, for want of a better word. No.
Well, we had a number of complaints about noise, which was in the letter, stated in the letter, and neighbors had complained. We had that issue, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and let you guys know, and then things settled down. It seems like you're having weekend DJs and that kind of thing out there, and probably getting a little too noisy.
And I
Okay,
think the other part of that too was that they felt it was going on later into the evening,
Yeah.
10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, later
was
into
the
the
other
evening.
part of that.
Okay, our bands have always been scheduled from 7:30 till 11:30 at night. At 11:30, that's it. We cut them off and all. When we have the bands, in this past year, we had 4 bands. Of course, this happened in July and August. In July and August, we all have our windows open, so sound is going to carry. When we have the bands, we situate them in our pavilion so the sound goes east, which goes over the hill, goes away from any of the roads, so we are thinking of our neighbors and all. Normally, we also call the authorities, the police, and let them know that we are going to have, the bands are going to be there, so if they hear if anybody calls up, they're aware of the situation and know that we have the bands.
So you do notify them when you have a band there?
For the
sheriff's
most part, we do.
office?
Once in a while, we forget, but we do make an effort to notify the sheriff and all the other law-abiding, other law-abiding personnel that cover the area. And all, frankly, if you would check with the police, you'd find out that our campground has the least amount of problems as far as loud noises, drinking, fighting, etc. Normally, our current average age is 62 years old, so normally the only ones that come out to see us are the EMTs because somebody's fallen out of a tree or something. We won't make any names, so. Also, we've been there for 76 years. So I believe, I haven't been there that long, obviously. I've been there maybe 5-6 years. I believe we've been good neighbors as far as, getting along with our neighbors and everything. There is some people do not like the lifestyle that we represent at that campground, so that could also, I'm not trying to make this up or anything, but some people don't care for our lifestyle, and that may be entering into some of this too. I know several of the neighbors, one in particular had bought recently within the past 5-7 years, and from the story I heard, evidently did not realize that he was right next to a campground when he bought the property. So that also goes into, but
Okay. Well,
think-
appreciate you coming and
yeah,
explaining
we just wanted to
it.
let you know that, and if you
Yeah.
have any questions or anything. Now, if you send that letter, we're closed down now for the season. We don't open again until May. So the letter will probably just sit there, so you're not going to hear, any response from us, just so you're aware of that. and all.
That's why we thought, that's why I have it on my calendar to send it in December by, like, property tax time. Because I know you get a property tax bill and you pay that.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. The treasurer picks up, it all goes to a PO box in Cambridge, because we don't put a mailbox out there, because evidently they tried that a few years ago, and of course, that, we do have occasional vandalism, because everybody thinks it's really cool to come into our campground and destroy stuff. And they also had that happen with the mailbox too, so. That's why we went with the PO box in Cambridge. And in the wintertime, he comes up he lives in Illinois, and he comes up like once every 3 weeks or so to pick up the mail and everything, so.
Are you the manager or the, what are,
I'm sorry?
manager or owner, co-owner? What are you?
Oh, this is a co-op. We're all,
Owners.
yeah, we run it all together, and we're all,
But there must be a contact information we can get or something, right?
Is there like an email
Yeah,
address?
it must be
or-
somebody in charge of it.
For emergency, I mean, something that we would want you
Right,
to
it
know
would be
about right
wicked.
away?
yeah, I mean, we could give you our president's phone number
Yeah, that's
and,
what, yeah. I mean, it'd be helpful to know who to contact. you know,
yeah,
if-
yeah. Mhm. And all that won't be a problem.
One of the issues, back in 2016, we granted you, I believe it was a conditional use permit to expand the number of campsites. And in that filing, your representation was that your business hours were 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And as best I can remember, we were not made aware that you had live bands performing until 11:30.
Okay. I believe that the 7 to 6 PM would be when the office hours.
So I'm a little bit in keeping with the people who are complaining that you're going till 11:30. I would encourage you to recommend and think about that, because the county attorney would be willing to follow up if there are a lot more complaints. And that could end up in reconsideration of your conditional use permit for expanded areas.
Okay,
So understand this can be a serious issue,
right. And
Okay.
we are taking it seriously,
so,
I know, but I just wanted to, again, provide our side of the story too.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah, if you could provide the contact information, it'd be helpful.
Okay.
Presidents or whoever, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Patty, you got anything? Okay, next item is to approve the minutes from the September 21st Town Board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from the September 21st Board meeting as written. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And next is to approve the minutes from the October 5th Special Town Board meeting.
So moved.
Is that Tom?
Yes.
Oh, I'll second it.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes from the October 5th Special Town Board meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Police chief and road supervisor is not here, so we'll skip those. Wisconsin Towns Association Convention report.
I sent one out to everybody of kind of the general sessions and what took place, and there was more sessions than I could obviously attend to, but felt like we were in pretty good shape. I think one of the things that we as a board want to talk more about is how we pursue broadband. And if we, look to we've got another ARPA payment coming, is that something we want to do? I am going to contact the county exec. Ben was at another session with us and talked about that they're willing to spearhead stuff, and we don't have enough money to make it meaningful, so we're going to have to partner with the county and stuff. So there was a lot of discussion, and there are monies being made available both at state and county, and So somehow with a little bit of ARPA money and some cooperation, we should do that, because basically, spectrum ends here at A, and so beyond that, you're kind of, if you're not between 12 and 18 and, you know, outside of area, you're on your own like Susan is at her house, and it's tough to find
DirecTV.
anything. You know,
Well,
so,
what would be interesting is if we could get the county to spearhead that and get the cooperation of the rest of the towns in the county, you could come up with probably enough money to do something.
well, Town of Watertown, what's his name, the chair up there? Excuse
The
me,
old one or the new one?
the new one.
I don't remember what it
I don't even, is it John something? He did get the county to partner with them, and they got something going already.
was. It the satellite one?
I don't know if there was a Starbright or not.
Starbright.
But that's another alternative for us is if the Starbright and it's a satellite dish system by Elon Musk creating a low orbit system. And a couple of the far northern towns were able to fund the $500 upfront fee for their people and to go on to the Starbright. And they said that worked really well. And I don't know exactly what the county's pushing at this point or
Yeah.
working with, but I did talk with Gene a little bit, and I'll get a hold of the county exec and talk a little bit more. Other than that, there was a lot of stuff. On ARPA, we kind of need to do public input session before we get too far down the road. And they said their best advice was don't fund anything until you understand what the rules really are.
Which we don't know what they are yet.
Yeah, and the final rules won't be reissued until like April. But it did,
Maybe.
yeah, maybe. In a couple cases, we had talked about that we were pretty confident we'd get funding for the ditch work that we did on Lakeview and Wolf. And we found out in a couple of different sessions that we're going to have sign off from DNR that was necessary for clean water or to do that. So that's something we'll have to work on. I still think that's a doable project, but that was it. And then we had a session that was close to my heart on zoning that had to do with variances and conditional use permits. And, and gosh, I'd heard those words before. So, but I thought it was a really good convention. See a lot of people there. The Kalahari was quite a place. So I know any of you question, I sent this out a couple days ago. So, okay. Okay, we're good.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ted. Okay, clerk treasurer's report.
Okay. There is a new requirement for candidates and non-candidates for the 2022 elections. Tom Jensen and Jimmy Gidio, their terms are up in April of 2022. Papers can be taken out, nomination papers can be taken out December 1st, but if you choose not to be on the ballot, you have to file a non-candidacy report, and that has to be filed with the clerk's office by December 24th. And then that information is going to be forwarded to the Wisconsin Elections Commission, and then they're going to put it on WisVote. They're attempting to provide more education for voters, so voters will know who they can vote for and who is not running. And that is for all municipal elections starting in 2022. So I need to get non-candidacy forms to all the school districts. So if school board members are choosing not to run, they have to notify us as well. So that is something new.
Wow.
Wow. We
I,
got four school districts?
we
to
have
deal
4
with?
school districts. Right.
Well, does that include the sewer or the,
It does. It
Okay.
includes that. It includes all elected officials for the spring election. So,
They
I
must
just,
think you don't have enough to do, Susan.
I just wanted to make you aware of that new requirement. So, there's that. And then, December 31st, our two plan committee members, their terms are up. It is Tom Schabowski and Meg Turble Heights. Their terms are up the end of December. I will be publishing a notice probably in the next week or so to see if people are interested in serving on the planning committee. We will, of course, make sure that we notify Meg and Tom
prior to that?
prior to making it public posting, so that if they wish to continue, they certainly can do that.
But I
And-
think they have to just put their name in. If I
That is
recall,
a-
that the requirement is we have to run that notice. And if, you know, so if 3 sign up and these 2 want to stay on, I mean, we're going to have to talk to all 5 of them.
And that's regardless of whether you're an incumbent or not, you
Right.
still have to submit a letter of interest by December 1st, and then those will be given to the board because they'll have to make a decision at the December meeting for the 2022.
That doesn't take a Class 2 notice, does it?
No,
No.
it does not.
No, just, we get it in there in November, we're fine.
Right. And that's all I have.
Okay, questions for Susan? If not, discussion and possible action on the 2022 Town of Oakland budget. Susan worked diligently on this. One obvious thing on page 1 is town property taxes. You notice a substantial increase there, and the reason for that is, in the past, we had never levied for the long-term debt in the past. So our residents got a discount for a few years there. So, but it's in there now, and let's see, wants anything else stand out for you?
I thought we were doing that, we weren't?
Pardon me?
We weren't?
We're levying it.
The first
That was the
year,
intent, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
it was not levied in 20 or 21.
Okay.
So,
Last 2 years.
so we're not going to
Oops.
go back, we're not going to go backwards, we're just going to go forwards.
I thought
I-
that was being done too.
Yeah, how could it not be levied, and then we paid off the debt?
Come out of general funds.
It comes out of general funds and reserves.
No one ever knew?
No.
Wow.
In the minutes from our budget meeting, we said that we allocated 400,000 for borrowing, and on the budget sheet, it shows 350. If I read that correctly.
Did I not?
I didn't get a new budget sheet. I just got the old one that you gave me, and it's in there.
Where does it show
What page is that
that?
on?
Mine shows 400.
Where are you reading at, guys?
What,
It is on page 9.
yeah, mine shows 400. You must have an old one. You must have that original
Or
one.
either that, or I looked at the wrong column. Okay. Okay.
There have been many renditions of this, and I apologize if I got a misplaced page. It is also changed from the budget meeting 2 weeks ago. So if you kept some old copies, they
Yeah,
could
If you
be.
got the one from 2 weeks ago when we had our budget meeting, there's
Yeah.
several
Okay.
changes in there.
It should say October 15th on the bottom.
Yeah, I just must have misread the column.
Oh,
Oh,
I tried to do this all in one sitting this afternoon, so.
It was a lot, let me
Yeah.
tell you.
So you're proposing to increase the borrow by 50,000 from last year?
Correct.
That was discussed in the last meeting, in
that
the
was
special
voted on
meeting?
the last
Yes.
meeting.
And that money is going to be used for what?
Roads,
The 50,000 is going into road budget?
yeah.
We are hoping to apply for some road grant, some road grant money. And if we're successful with the bids, we need a match. So we needed to put something in the budget in case we're successful with some of those grants.
This for Park Road, or?
Park Road is,
Yeah, that's one we're applying for a TRID grant on. And if that goes through, we'll have to fund 20% of that.
And that was close to $1 million, wasn't it, all total?
Uh,
that
I
was
haven't
very
seen the
close.
final, but it's good, it's very close to that with
Yeah.
the drainage.
Yeah. And we're still way behind on everything else. We've got tons of stuff that needs fixing, so.
one thing about the fire
What was that?
budget for Jefferson.
Yeah, we got that updated.
I updated that.
Right, but I forgot that they do have on the 2022 list a tanker. So the towns would share 85% of that.
And we are, what, 3%?
Yeah, it's not that much for us.
2.5% of that or something? They haven't called a meeting yet.
No,
So they typically do that after the budget's passed. So I expect in December we'll hear something and they'll call a meeting and they'll talk about that. It's a tanker, right?
a tanker and the, let's see, this is, the estimate at, a year ago was 333,196. The towns would share 85% of that. And like you said, our share would only be about 3.5 for,
Yeah,
if it's, I don't know if it went up a little bit because the one town
it's Glenn
dropped
went
out.
It might have gone up a little bit, not much,
What was that number for the tanker again?
385.
333,196.
196.
And but it would be 85% shared by it's 4 townships now?
Yeah. And we are like 3% of that 85%.
So something like that would come out of reserves and,
Yeah.
So on page 5 then, is this what I was reading, on page 5, draft budget 2022, it says the borrow is 350,000.
No, on the 2022 draft budget, it
My-
says 400.
400,000.
oh, he's looking on page
Page
5.
five.
Page 5,
I'm
Page
looking at
5.
page 5 as
I am
well.
too.
Oh,
ours are wrong then.
yeah.
Mine says
Yeah,
350.
Mine says 350.
So that's what I read, I didn't
That's
know.
what
it
it
was-
is. That's because
Okay.
I got a red mark right here.
You didn't make copies of these for the guys.
Page 9 is correct.
I didn't
9
see
is
page-
correct, 5 says
I
350.
thought I did. I thought I printed these off,
One in-
but,
One in the
but-
packet there. One in on the desk.
no, I put them in the packet, in the board packet. I apologize for that.
What's
I-
the date on the bottom of yours?
15th.
15th, it's
Yeah.
the current one, yeah.
Page 9 is correct, but page 5 is not correct.
Oh, my page 5
My
has 400.
my page 5 does as well.
Well, where'd you get yours?
I don't know.
I thought the same place.
Okay, so the 400 was discussed and talked about in the special meeting,
And-
Right.
And approved.
and it's going to be used for roads.
Right.
So then we have to correct all the numbers then in this column, because this will be wrong then.
What do you show for your total revenues on page 5?
1994117,
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's 2044,
Yeah.
117.
right. This was not a corrected copy.
I apologize for that, that's
No
my
big deal.
fault.
What do you show for, on the expense side? Total
Probably the same.
expenses?
What pages?
Page 10. That probably matches that 199.
2044.
No, it's the
Or
204.
2,044.
441733 total.
Yeah, that's
Okay, so-
correct. That's
It's
correct.
So
And
you
page
do-
9 and 10 are both correct.
Okay, so you got page 5
Five
is
is
the one
wrong.
that's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all in one document, so I don't know how that happened.
Well, we had, the one we printed for the meeting on the 5th had 350 in there.
Right.
Right, but if,
Why that didn't get changed over, I don't know.
I don't know. Because I worked in one document.
Yeah. But the correct total number is 2,044,117.43.
Right.
And I don't know how that managed to be correct on the expense side,
Yeah,
not
not
on
on
the
the-
revenue side.
Right, I don't know.
Because like I said, they're all in one.
Okay, any other questions on the budget?
This is finance. It's up to you to
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the 2022 budget, working budget,
In the amount of,
in the amount of, what was it, $2,044,117.33.
do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve the 2022 budget of $2,044,117.33. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
You passed the budget, so I don't know that
Yeah,
we need to talk
number
about
10
it.
really doesn't belong on there. That was on the October 5th one. So number 11, discussion on how much should be spent on the fire station addition. This came up at our last fire commission meeting to get a feel for what the board feels is the right number. We've had a couple town, well, I shouldn't say a couple, we've had one of the municipalities thinks you can't pass a referendum, over $6 million. And I guess what I'm looking for is a idea from you at what you think we can pass in Oakland. We definitely need a fire station. I don't think there's any doubt in any of the board members' minds about that, the addition. But where do you think that referendum ought to be?
Well, are we going to have a public meeting like we had told the public we were going to have?
Uh,
When we met over
Yeah,
at the garage, we had told them that we would be sure that we would have a meeting.
well, certainly we
public
will. When we firm up a plan, the thing that the architect's looking for is, if he does a bunch of work and comes back with 6.1, right now, that's 6.5 million that we were looking at a year ago, is at least 7 million,
Okay.
just with inflation and increase in costs. So, we don't want to come back with a 6.2 number or something like that. We need to make sure what we put on the agenda, or excuse me, on the referendum is the right number, the number that the citizens will pass.
We just, in terms of the committee that looked at the ideas, and we came up with some ideas and passed those on to the fire commission. At our very last meeting, one person made a motion to say, let's just go with the original plan at 6.5 million. Out of, there were 11 of us present that night. Only 3 people voted in favor of that. 8 voted not to go back with the full price project. So the feeling coming out of that was that 6.5 would probably not carry if we were to come back with that. So, and like I say, the motion to present the 6.9 again failed.
Well,
No.
that didn't carry to begin with, so I don't understand the.
Exactly.
think
The voters already told us
thought process at all.
6.5 million
Well, I mean,
wasn't.
you know, in looking at it, would we consider it? And the answer is no. And so,
The last commission meeting we had, it was pretty much decided, we have to trim this thing down somewhere. We don't want to trim it to where you don't need the needs assessment. You know, it was agreed by the building review committee after reviewing that the needs assessment was right. That was fine. We just need to figure out how to trim square footage, costs, that type of thing out of there.
and probably some needs are going to have to be delayed.
Yeah, you're right,
There
you're right.
There are needs that will not be
There's some
met.
of the needs are probably going to have to be delayed, that's right.
Well, obviously, some of the needs are probably going to have to be eliminated because there are needs that maybe aren't needed. And that's what we heard from the last referendum. So you're still at 6.1 million?
No, we're not. We gave, but you have to understand that we did not give prices based on engineering. We gave prices on average square foot. We had prices that ranged between 5 million and 6 million in ideas and suggestions that we put forward. So,
Yeah, it's kind of a tough question. You'd think you would first scale the project back and then kind of go from there. At least that would be.
How much are you willing to spend?
I'm, you know, I guess being in, doing what I do for a living, it's kind of weird to ask for money without knowing what the scaled down project is. And what the scaled down project.
Well, I don't know that we're asking for how much money. The building review committee came back with 3 recommendations to the fire commission. And so now we got to figure out, you know, where can we go with this? I mean, is 5.5 million, would that work? I mean, there's been several people have suggested, put a number on it and figure out how you get there. Well, you know, I'm not sure that's the right thing to do, but that may be what you have to do. Because certainly cost can come out of the building. Square footage is one thing. We may have to size it down and make it so that if we need another bay 10 years from now, we add it on at that point.
I guess I thought, again, from the meeting we had in the garage, that was going to be what was looked at, where you could come up with a base build or remodel and then, you know, have it be a half of the cost of what the current project is, and then 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road, you take a look at your expansion. That's what I remembered.
Half the cost? Where did you come up with that?
you know,
Well, I didn't, okay, so my,
I think we talked about whatever that cost would be.
yeah, I mean, so, but if you look at it as doing half the project at half the cost and leave room for expansion later, that kind of talk makes sense within the residents of the community, instead of doing it all at once. That's my point, and that's what I thought I heard in the meetings that we had in the garage.
I would say the recollection was a little bit different, that we would have to review and take into account that the 40, 50-year horizon was not particularly something that we could look to, that we needed to look more to an immediate 10 to 20-year horizon, which would result in some scale back of the project. I don't know that we ever said,
And that
Cut it
may be
back,
where
yeah.
you've got that idea.
and that, somebody might have said, well, let's half it or something. But that, I don't recall making that kind of statement on that. And it is, it's really difficult, you know, if you say to the firefighters and the EMTs, prioritize it, they say, well, we did already, you know, and then how do you pick which things? And so then the other way is, you know, let's set a dollar amount and say, let's see what we can get for this. You know, from spending time on that, I'm somewhere 5.5, 5.75 mil, I think would get us a good way down the road. But that's just me from you know, looking at some of this stuff.
Well,
How
I
do you
got-
sell that when you don't know what that buys?
Well, we'd have to get some kind of thing, but the other part of this too is we're trying to figure something out that we're not exactly certain what kind of fire department we're going to end up with in the next 3 to 5 years. You know, at the committee level, we took the viewpoint of full-time meds and volunteer firefighters. As we went through that, it became more and more apparent that that may not be the solution in the 10 to 20 year time frame, that we may be to some kind of paid way before 10 or 20 years. Well, if you have more people working in a facility, you know, then you have to make sure that there's space for them. Whereas if they come in once a week to train, to have, you know, it's a different situation. So that makes it a little bit trickier too, to try and figure that out.
I think
exactly what we need.
we're closer than 10 years on
Yeah.
full-time, daytime firemen. I think Darrell has the right idea in Fort. They're moving away from Ryan Brothers, private carrier, and they're going to move it into the station. They're planning to hire 6 more full-time paramedic firefighters, so they can be paramedics on the ambulance, they can be on the fire truck, or whatever. They got 4 now, so there would be 10 to staff that. I don't think we need to get to 10, but I mean, that's what I see coming. Right now, our paramedics, 2 of them are firefighters as well. If all 6 of them were firefighters, you know, if you'd add 2, you'd probably be able to staff weekdays and let the volunteers take care of nights and weekends. But we're getting to the point where we don't have any firemen anymore that can come out on a day call. You know, the fire bell goes off, we don't have people running down Main Street to get to the firehouse. They're going to be coming from Madison or Janesville or wherever they're working. So, and that's becoming a problem. That's soon going to exacerbate. That's going to be a bigger problem down the road. Because these guys aren't young anymore.
Yeah, I think all of that needs to be baked into the plan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
kind
a
of
cart,
right.
it's a cart before the horse, or what, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know what the ask, what you're
Kind
saying
of
the
fries
ask
your
is.
brain thinking about
Well,
what the future's
Well, I
going
think
to
the
bring.
ask is,
I don't know what the ask is, and
the ask is what do we sense that are, what's a level, do we have a sense of a level of support that we would get from our residents?
That's basically what we're asking now.
That's beyond this board, though, really. How do
Well,
we
it's
ascertain that?
what your feeling is. I mean, with your communication with the residents, what's your feeling on it?
Well, I mean, I could recite what I hear when I walk the road every day. I mean, if you want to hear all that again, but we've already given that to your committee. I mean, so
So you got 3 different proposals, or what were you saying? You had
That's
3?
basically what they gave to the commission is 3 different ideas. And, what our task is gonna be is to sort through that and figure out, what we can do, the most cost-effective way. And that's why, I'm asking what you think the constituents can handle.
yeah, I can tell you what I hear when I'm out doing my walks, so I can tell you. Why there's so many bathrooms, why is there a health club when there's a tax-paid health club at the high school? And there's one on the corner, meeting room for 70 people. All these things keep coming up. And if that's not changing,
Well,
then
that's
I'm
what
not sure the cost is
Jimmy,
gonna
that's what
matter.
you have to downsize. That's what that's all about.
And again, we've been through, we've done iterations with fewer bathrooms. The chief and Bob say private personal bathrooms are essential for recruitment and retention of staff. And so we've tried to, in all of the scenarios that we presented, we've basically reduced the number of bathrooms. But the bathrooms, and one of the things that people need to understand is that bathrooms are in different parts of the building. You have bathrooms that go with sleeping quarters, and those are not public bathrooms. Those are reserved for the people who are staying or overnight. And at one point, we proposed shared one bathroom for every 2 sleeping rooms, but those bathrooms become, in essence, private bathrooms. Then you have to have bathrooms where your people work. You have to have bathrooms available to your training room, whether it's 40 people, 50 people, whatever that is. And to some degree, when they come back from a call, and if they're going to decontaminate, if they've been badly contaminated with chemicals, they've got to go to a decon room, and that decon room really needs to have a bathroom in it also. So, it's possible to eliminate bathrooms, but it's still going to seem like, this is more than I have in my house, way more. That's still going to be there. We probably need to do a better job of explaining that those bathrooms function differently.
Yeah, and I get all that. And I'm not here to argue or debate how many
Right.
bathrooms need to be in the new facility. What I'm
But
telling you is what I'm hearing.
Yep.
And if you're telling me that if we don't have a meeting room for 70 people, we can eliminate 5 bathrooms, to me, that would be to rent a meeting room when you have 70 people off-site, then you don't have that expense, and that brings that cost way down. That's just the things that I hear about. And if that hasn't been discussed in a real manner in those committee meetings to reduce the cost, then you're not going to reduce the cost but a couple $100,000. So
No,
that's what I'm hearing.
If we reduce the bathrooms by half, the cost you're gonna take out is $60,000, less than 1% of the project.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not talking big money.
But if you reduce the meeting room or take the meeting room
Well,
away,
Then you take, that's where I'm
Square
talking about,
footage.
taking square footage out,
which would reduce costs,
right?
Yeah. and
which
we
would
went-
reduce bathrooms, which would, so again, I'm not in those meetings, so I don't
And-
know,
And
but,
I didn't intend this to be on here to discuss what we're gonna build.
right.
What I'm wondering is, what will the general public accept
I
on the
don't-
referendum next spring?
I don't know how we're going to know that until we talk to the people. I mean, we have a meeting.
Well, don't you talk to the people during the week here? I mean, what are you hearing on the street?
Not much about the fire station right now.
Oh,
I haven't either, Gene. I I haven't talked to anybody about it. I don't know, because maybe it's,
I mean, I had a lot of people that were for the referendum
Yeah, I guess-
before. But what we heard at the garage meeting is that they want to be more, they want to know what's going on before they see a referendum for an amount. So I guess I don't know how we're going to be able to tell what they want on the referendum.
Significantly less, that's what I know. It has to be a lot less. If it's
Like
half,
$1 million less?
well, if it's half or slightly more than half,
Well, I can tell you, Jimmy, I've been involved in this way too long to think that you aren't blowing smoke right out of your rear end. You cannot build a fire station and
You
meet
can or
even
not.
half of the needs assessment.
I don't know if you can or not.
No, you can't.
That's not the point.
Well, it is the point. It's absolutely the point. If you're gonna do something, you certainly don't want to do a half-assed job on it and not get done what you need to get done.
I don't know what else to say about it.
You've been meeting with the guys downtown too much,
Well, that's your
because that's where it's
opinion.
coming from.
That's your opinion, you have a right to it.
What do you think?
I mean, you know the stuff that we proposed and where it falls. It falls between 5 and 6 million is what we've proposed. You know, somewhere in that, it seems like we could create something that would meet a lot of needs and improve issues where, because if we hire, we're gonna have to be competitive. And part of what being competitive is having a station and the facilities that'll support full-time employees. And that's different than what works for a volunteer company. So,
Patty, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just have a question. So if you don't lower it, or even if you lower it, and it doesn't pass again, then what do you have? I mean, I don't know what can you do next?
I'm not gonna be there at that time. I can tell you that. I am tired to the point of almost resigning it right now. It's gotten to
No,
that
I'm
point.
just curious, because if it doesn't pass the second time, whether it be,
Then we're gonna sit there, we're not gonna have a fire department. That's the bottom line. These volunteer firemen are so upset at this point because of the lack of support they're getting from the village mainly, but they just, why would they put themselves through that? And I don't know what happens if we don't have a fire department, because we're responsible to have a fire department.
so if it doesn't pass again, like say 2 out of 5, I don't know, and so then everybody agrees that we need something, but they don't agree with what the needs assessment is what I'm getting. Well, that's what I get, and I'm just curious, when the committee voted and just 3 people voted not to accept any of this because it wasn't what they wanted or needed, then what do you do?
But that was after they voted that the needs assessment was right. They studied that,
Yeah, they did.
and the needs assessment was determined to be right. So those are the things that we need. Now, you might have to push some of them off, I understand that. But we've got to get something done.
Well, we have to do something, but I don't think that we need to do everything that's in that needs at this point. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, that's what I hear on this.
Well, I don't think we're going to get everything that's in the needs assessment. I mean, if we start reducing the cost significantly, I mean, if 5.5 is the number, that's coming from $7 million here down the, we got to take $1.5 million out of that building. You don't do that in square footage alone. It's got to be somewhere else.
Well, I went to the Town of Christiana meeting, and they too had the same assignment to get a number, and they came up with 4.75.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
How did they come up with it?
Hold it right out of their ear.
Well, you know, I'm very supportive of, and I have been, of a new fire station. I think this exercise is difficult to say the least, and I really don't have a good pulse on what the community will support, really. I don't. And I'm not sure what the answer is.
The Christiana number didn't come from the guy that was on the committee.
Yeah, the guy that was on the committee wanted 4.5. That's what he wanted. And then,
I guess that's not what I heard.
Jim Lowry was on the committee.
I was there, so that's what
Yeah.
he wanted, you know, that's
Okay.
what he felt that number would work. And then they talked about it, and then they went to 4.75.
Here's a town with no debt, no tax, and excess money in the bank. Of course, the solar farm has a lot to do with the attitude out there. That's a big carrier out there. Okay, can I put a number down?
Idea what it is.
Or are we gonna go by the way of McNally and the village? They couldn't come up with a number. Frankly, that's the only reason that was ever on the agenda, is to get him to commit to something.
Well, I guess I didn't know that we were going to be asked that kind of question tonight.
Nor did
So
I.
it would be something that I would, like you said, haven't you talked to people? Well, no, I have not talked to people. And no, people haven't been talking to me since the referendum, when I asked people what they thought and what they wanted. And that was a year ago.
Well, and
So
Utah
I would-
who supported 6.5, did they not?
The majority of them did, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say right now, because other neighbors were over in the garage, and they definitely were not in favor of the 6.5.
Okay.
So I don't want to put a number out tonight. Do we have, I mean, are they asking, when does the referendum question need?
December 8th is when the final number has to be, that's when the referendum question has to be sent to the county.
So,
And then they didn't look at phases of the project?
Well, I mean, the recommendations that the committee put forth, one had a strong recommendation on a phase approach. The other one, there was an implied phased approach, because you'd need to do something first, then do other steps. And so while it wasn't laid out as a phase, it would have to be. You can't do it all at once, because it involves what you would do to the current fire station. You establish certain things first, then do some other things, have to redo the existing station in certain areas. The most phased one was the separate building for EMS. The one approach was to build today, right away, a 4,500 square foot building right on the property, right in front of where the ambulance bays are now, and put your EMS operation in there. You'd have 4 bedrooms, bathrooms, room for 2 ambulances, plus training, living quarters,
And leave the
offices.
fire station where it is, me?
Leave the fire station where it is, move the ambulance out. Then that would be phase 1. While you're doing phase 1, you would reevaluate what you needed to do in the existing fire station. Then you would add a certain number of bays. You wouldn't need quite as many bays because you pulled the ambulances out of the building. And depending on what you determined you needed to do in the old building would determine how many of the old bays you could keep active versus the new that you would need to add. And then you would get on to that where you would, at a certain point, you would have to add bedrooms for firefighters because EMS has them in their building. But that had set phases, but
That's not moving forward.
well, no, it's moving forward because you immediately solve the issue of we're renting an apartment across the street, our paramedics are running across Highway 12 in the middle of the night to get on
Right.
an ambulance. That would put them in the same building with their ambulance, and they would leave. It doesn't create immediate space. It creates some space in that the fire department could move into the offices that currently are occupied by EMS. You would have the bays that were available. You could put some of the smaller pieces of apparatus in those bays, making some more space in the current bays to get some separation for the turnout gear to keep it away from trucks moving in and out, and maybe even eventually separate it out, which is a big issue. But any of this is going to have to involve some phases. You can't go in and plow things down and start new. You've got to figure out something to do in between. So
So what's the mindset then, that all the municipalities would get a number, and then how would you agree on it? And that number would go in the December 8th?
We'd get a feel for where we're at. I don't know that any of the numbers would fit, because Ted's suggestion on a separate EMS building doesn't address any of the fire issues, and that's where the biggest issues are right now. The safety issues, the contaminated gear, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Not that that couldn't be addressed at the same time, but just the same. I mean, if you're going to phase this thing, basically the 6.5 project was phasing.
Yeah.
It was going to move and stay in operation. That's a big key. We have to keep everything in operation through the whole project. So that was building the apparatus bays, move that over, and then go to work in the old building. So
Yeah, and I get it. And
we don't really need to get into the details of what it's going to be at this point. I mean, we could be here till midnight.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up with all these good ideas, but that's not what this is on here for. The only reason it's on here is to get a feel from you folks what you think the constituents would accept in a referendum.
I guess my mindset, and like I said, I'm not sure because I haven't talked to anybody, but if we're at 6.5, the delta between what we're proposing would have to be a lot, not 6.1. Because the last thing you want to do is put something out there like this and have it fail,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
What good is that? So,
And that's the only,
and if you're really not changing the scope of the project by a small delta, which means that the difference between this project and that project, how are you going to get communities? They're going to just come back. I don't see how you change community sentiment that much if you're not really changing the project. And I'm not saying, I don't disagree with you, the needs is correct, but, and maybe that's why Christiana came in at 4.7, I don't know. Because they're actually, that's like 1.8 million less or whatever, and that, and to your point, maybe 1 million, maybe that number isn't even adequate, and it probably isn't.
well, obviously, we got to downsize this.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's got to be downsized, and in downsizing, I feel we need to take apparatus bays out of there. We need to shorten up the 100-foot bays to bare minimum, whatever that is. If we need a 100-foot bay down the road, that's the addition that goes on.
You know, my question is then, by doing that, how much, what does the project cost change, Gene?
Yeah.
I mean, instead of just, so we can recommend something that's based on an actual downsizing plan, at least to some degree, and therefore feel comfortable recommending it too, as well, in terms of the seat we're sitting in. Because it didn't get approved last time, so we want to make sure that we're doing this right, because we do need a new fire station.
I mean, my feeling is,
I just
the
don't.
present project is at 7 million now.
Right, it's
And
not
we need to
surprising.
get $1.5 million out of that. That's kind of, I don't know how we're gonna do that, but that's my feeling.
It's probably right, yeah.
And if we can't do that, then we better figure out what we gotta cut in there. Take some of the, like you said, some of the needs assessment out or something.
It's probably, just from I don't know enough about it, it's probably, I don't know if this is what you said, Ted, it's probably got to be between 5 and 5.5 or something to,
Because that forces you to cut certain things that, or delay them for a future time, and
Yeah, how we do that isn't what we need to discuss. We need to know.
and, well, we need to know what number that we're going to get the majority of the people to agree to.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Right.
I know what my vote is, regardless, same as last time, but that doesn't mean,
That doesn't mean the referendum's gonna pass.
Right.
It didn't last time either.
right. So so you're kind of, it's a tough question, because again, you don't want it to fail, because then I don't know what you do.
Is it 5 to 5.5?
yeah, well, I think that's a starting point. And the hard part is that for certain pushes back, and that says, we're going to cut needs, but, it's a tough issue, and unfortunately, the firefighters, I think to a large degree, are vested heavily in that every need needs to be met, and that's a difficult position for us. As we sit here, we need them, but we also have residents that want a fire department, but that at only a certain level of cost. And it's been expensive, and so.
Well, and it depends on what you're going to get for 5 million. I mean, that makes a big difference on how people are going to vote too. They need to know exactly what they're getting for their money.
Well, I would think they would. I mean, if we have public meetings,
Right, but you're having a public meeting after you set the referendum amount.
but you still have to have, you're not gonna get a referendum amount out of a public meeting. That's not gonna happen.
But you're,
You have to put a plan together that the people will accept. And if that plan is 5.5 million, then you have to present it and tell them why it's 5.5 million. We didn't do a good job of that last time. I'd be the first guy to admit that. We just didn't do a good job of selling it.
I mean, realistically, I don't see a building that, and I'm not going to use the term meets needs, but but serves the community plus provides for our volunteers and full-time people, coming in at anything less than $5 million. I just don't see it. Unless you're going to build pole barns.
And then you'd have to start from scratch, because you got a building that's there.
Yeah.
You got all the superstructure there. So if you're gonna start from scratch, you're starting at, we looked at that in 16, a new building, and it was $11 million, and we didn't have sewer, water, electric, roads, nothing, none of that was in there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, that went in the ditch quickly, but,
Even if you come up with this number, you may find out that it's not adequate. Which, you know,
we might, I don't know.
I think you need more meat. I mean, we can give you an estimate about what we think may pass,
And that's basically
and that's
what I'm
about,
asking.
and that number probably has to be obviously different than the original number,
Yeah.
not by a rounding error. And whether that's adequate or not, I'm not saying, it's just that. If it gives you a point to reference and to work from, and see what you can get to. How do you reconcile the differences then between, Gene, when you're going back? Say if we recommended a certain number, they're here, we're here. Cambridge hasn't given you anything. What do you do? I'm just, I don't want to be, I wouldn't want to be in your shoes.
But it still has to pass amongst all 5 districts, right? Or all 5?
Only 3 of them, as long as we don't go above the 6.5. Because Lake Mills and
Lake Mills and Rockdale don't
And
have to
Rockdale.
do theirs again.
would not have to redo theirs.
If the scope changes of the project, they don't have to redo it?
Not if
Because
they voted on a referendum to not exceed 6.5 million. Just like we did.
So Gene, I think it would be fair for you to say that the essence of our discussion was that nobody was willing to go above 5, and there were sentiments that were less than that.
Okay. That's what we're going with. It took a long time to get there. I didn't expect that to be longer than a 10-minute conversation. Okay, discussion and possible action on adopting the Wisconsin record retention schedule. Basically, we're just tossing out the old one and going with the one the state has, correct?
Correct. The records retention schedule that we have is from 2008, and we would like to adopt the Wisconsin retention schedule for municipalities. And that would work with the Wisconsin Historical Society. The records retention schedule is very big, which is why there's only one per table. You can, I think it's 60-some pages. But this is what we would follow. We do follow, the one that we have is very close. This is just a little bit more inclusive. So what we're doing is, ordinance number 57 is the current ordinance, and we are repealing and recreating the ordinance into ordinance 67, which means that we will adopt the Wisconsin municipal and related records schedule.
And that's the sheet you handed out tonight,
Correct.
rather than what was in our packet.
Right.
Okay.
So is there supposed to be an appendix?
This is the appendix, and there's one on your table there.
Oh.
It's rather, if
Right.
you'd like to take it home and
Voluminous.
read it, you certainly
No,
can.
that's fine.
This is our old ordinance 57, and we're replacing it with this,
with number 67,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Because you can't amend a ordinance, you have to create a new one to amend. That's why it's so confusing.
So do we do one action or two actions?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
One, because adopting ordinance number 67 would be repealing and recreating 57. So then 57 is still there, but it was amended by 67. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because we can't take them away, we can just amend.
So the proper way to do it is to amend with another,
With another ordinance.
So we
another
would,
ordinance?
Adopt another
Let's see.
ordinance.
so we
This-
would move adoption of ordinance number 67,
That is correct,
effect as of this date, October 19th.
Which revises 57.
correct. And then we have to publish, so it wouldn't take
Right,
effect
it won't
until
take
it's
effect.
published.
Okay. So I think I moved that.
I think you did too, I was going to say, I think you did. I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 67, repealing and recreating ordinance number 57. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Discussion and possible action on redistricting resolution.
The,
Wait a minute.
Wait, we have
I
the
missed one
public-
here.
we have
Discussion and
public-
possible action on public records request form.
this is the same one that we brought last meeting. All we did was put some potential costs on the bottom so that we can give this to residents who are looking for public records.
This is just what we agreed to last meeting.
Right, we just put the prices so that people have an idea of what the cost would be.
I'll make a motion to pass the public records request form.
I have a question. So if someone comes in and says, I just need a copy, you're not gonna, are you gonna charge them for staff time then? Like you, okay. It's
If they
just
just
the,
need a copy. But if, because of the 2020 election, there are several municipalities that are getting requests for poll books
Right.
and other election records. And if it is just a rather simple thing that we can go to the computer and print off a copy, we certainly would do that at no charge. But if someone wants a more in-depth public record search, then we would.
if it actually takes staff time to
Correct.
research it, yeah. Okay. I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve the public records request form. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item, discussion and possible action on redistricting resolution.
I met with the planning committee in Jefferson, or the planning department, and Oakland drew 131 residents from the 2010 census. All of the wards grew a little bit except for Ward 4. Ward 4 lost population, and the wards are enumerated down below. We had a 4% growth rate in 10 years.
So we-
And in your packet, it kind of shows in more detail where the growth was.
So is it normal practice to approve the population growth, I guess? I don't remember seeing this.
We have to have a resolution approving the redistricting. We didn't do a lot of changes in our municipality. There's other municipalities in the state that changed quite a bit. But what we need to do is approve a resolution. The county needs this resolution on record so that they can prepare ballots for the spring season.
Did we change any boundaries?
We did not change any
Okay.
boundaries. All we did was we did not change any boundaries, and we, our supervisors are elected at large. So,
Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
we don't have wards.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter
Because you
to
can
us.
live anywhere. We could all, like we live around the lake. Yeah.
Right.
right. So technically,
Most of us are
Yeah.
in two. I don't know if I'm
So now
three or
It's,
not.
it's,
I can't
it
tell.
basically what wards are laid out for is for the county commissioners
Yep.
East of
and for
Oakland.
state representatives. That's basically what wards are for.
So we're doing nothing to do with the voting or nothing to do with anything other than?
Not-
we only have one poll location.
Right.
There's other municipalities in the state who, a lot of those things have changed. It is not changing
Yeah,
drastically with 131 people.
yep.
Right.
But we need a resolution I need to get that to the county.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt this resolution number 2021-1.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve the redistricting resolution 2021-1. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Discussion and possible action on Didion rezone process.
Yeah, what's up with that?
We, John, went before the county board last Tuesday, and it was approved to rezone that property to all residential R1, except for the wetlands, which were then rezoned into natural status, which means there's no development whatsoever in the natural land. So we're at the point where we can proceed with plan to develop, and the next, there's basically 4 things that have to happen. John needs to firm up with the state and the county the access points off from 18 and off from A. They've had preliminary discussions, and they've agreed. This isn't in your packet anywhere, okay?
I was gonna say, I don't, yeah.
Yeah. We need to execute the developer or subdivider agreement that we have, and we reviewed this back in '20 and adopted it in our November meeting in 20.
Was it November?
Yeah, November 16th of 2020, we adopted a revised subdivider agreement. The other 2 things, one, then we want to have a meeting with all of the stakeholders, which would be all of the agencies and groups that'll be affected by this: police, fire, lake management district, sewer, and all of that, so that everybody knows and is on the same page that this is what we're doing, and then try to set a timetable for it. But first thing is, we need to negotiate the subdivider agreement, because some of this is negotiable. And so we've sent that to John to do that. And at this point, that falls under the purview of the board, town board, and is not under the purview of the planning committee. And it would be wise for us to, by motion, appoint one person to conduct those negotiations and manage this project at this point.
Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah. Been working on this since
Okay.
19,
Well,
yes.
I'd make a motion to, let's see, approve the rezone process, and I don't know if that's right, and appoint Ted as town representative in the negotiation of development.
Second?
Yeah, I'll second. Just as comment, as the Lake District, certainly want more involved, in those-
Leanne has had the copies of this since it got proposed, and I said, once we know that it's been approved, she'll be one of the stakeholders and participate in it. So I think it'd be easier to work with just Leanne rather than involve your Lake District Board.
Yep,
So-
as long as we have the
Yeah, no,
information.
we're good.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve the Vidian rezone process and appointing Ted Vratney as the town representative. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Discussion and possible action on lot line adjustment on N3660 Shepard Road, parcel number 022-0613-2421 and 022-613-2421-004.
This is this did not go through Plan Committee because it is a minor issue, and the county has basically already said, we approve this. We just need a sign-off from the town that says you're aware of it and there's no particular objection. This is on Shepard Road. It is, if you come north off from J, this will be there's about a 20-acre parcel there's no development on. The first house up on the hill with their really long driveway.
Yeah.
This is part of the alignment of that, and with Dave Korth, who owns the farm property, and they're swapping a little bit of land back and forth. And so there should be no issue. We should be able to approve this. It's pretty much a straightforward thing. We just need to authorize Gene to sign on our behalf. So-
Well, this was discussed in the planning committee?
No, this doesn't go, we've had them go
Comes
to
from the
plan,
county.
this kind, when the county notifies us that they're fine with this and just want it done.
So they
we-
went
we
to
don't-
to Jefferson first.
Went to Jefferson first, and they're sending it back to us saying, just do this, guys, sign off. And-
The rezoning was approved by the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee on September 27th.
So this is just our acknowledgement that this is okay with us, so. So I would move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve the lot line adjustment on N3660 Shepard Road. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Discussion and possible action to combine two existing certified survey map lots, both zoned R1, at W9349 Oakland Road, parcel number 022-0613-0533-057, and parcel number 022-0613-0533-056.
This is way back, if you take Oakland Road and you go up where it curves around and then goes way back almost up to 18 and then swings around and connects to, what is that East Shore Place? or-
Circle.
Circle. There's this, as you make that corner, this property is to your left and the two lots run, one fronts the road, the other one is behind it. By combining, he's got one lot, he's got street access, and they go from being two substandard lots to being one lot that's standard, or actually bigger than.
That would be
it'll-
big enough to build a
yeah,
house on.
it'll be 17,000 square feet, which puts it up to almost a half acre, 4/10 of an acre. Owned by one guy.
Adrian Flores.
Yeah,
That's-
there's no issues. We have a right-of-way along the side of the property that's not maintained, I don't think it's even developed. I don't
No.
think
no,
you
that's-
wouldn't know it if you went by it, so. But any other adjacent lots have access out, so it doesn't create a blind. And again, this is another one that the county has approved, and we just need to sign off on this.
I'll make a motion that we approve the combination of the two existing lots at Oakland Road, 93, W9349.
Second.
With the PIN numbers listed.
Jimmy?
I'll second it, yeah.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve the combining two existing certified survey map lots, both zoned R1 at W9349 Oakland Road. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All, any opposition? Okay, next item, discussion and possible action of Jefferson County zoning ordinance update. Did you go through that from beginning to end, Ted? Because I did today too, and I didn't see anything in there that,
Yeah, and a lot of this does roll out of a lot of the discussion that we had when they did the comprehensive plan and the
Yeah.
ag preservation plan.
that's what I kind of assumed.
And some of these,
They're really not making any big changes. One is the maximum height of the garage,
Garage,
going
yeah.
from 15 to 18 feet.
Yeah, I saw.
and that's,
And that's
interestingly,
because of
that's,
Jimmy.
yeah, well, and that's one we get. That's you know, a conditional use permit that we get all the time is to.
Yeah.
Sean did it, the other guy on.
Well, they want to
Wolf-
match the roof line
Yeah.
on the house, and then you can't get on 15 feet.
Yeah, so that's
That's
a
the
good
only
one.
thing I really noticed in the whole thing that,
Yeah,
that was changed.
Oh, and the definition of junkyard.
Well,
yeah. I would move adoption.
Second.
okay, motion's made and seconded to approve the Jefferson County zoning ordinance update. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. A discussion and possible action on to create a committee to discuss ARPA spending.
I asked to have that on the agenda when I was at the Treasurers Conference last month. They strongly suggested that we get some community input in how we're going to use this federal money to enhance our community. That is also one of the questions that the report template asks, is how we have involved community. So I'm asking if we can create a committee that will review how ARPA money is spent.
I think we're probably too early in that process right now. That's my feeling, simply because we don't have the rules. The public don't understand where this money can be used. You know, you can come up with 100 places to spend the money, but none of them qualify. In fact, I'm at a point where we may need to hire someone to review that process and fill the paperwork out. Each one of those, correct me if I'm wrong here, Susan, but each one of these projects that we fund, there's about a 15-page report that has to be filled out. I have no idea how the IRS is gonna monitor that. I mean, my goodness, you got how many counties, how many towns, and how many cities and villages going to be doing, funding ARPA, and you got a pack of paper that thick for each one of them.
Well, I mean, it's common to bring people on to write grants. I mean, part-time, and, just limited term, just to do that kind of
Well,
work.
yeah, and I'm almost thinking by spring, we're gonna have somebody like Johnson Block, our auditor, probably hire a couple people to do just that. Then we know what, they know what the rules are, they know how to fill the paperwork out. It's not paperwork, it's electronic, but,
You still have to write it.
pardon me?
You still have to write it,
Yeah.
whether it's electronic or not. It's text and
Yeah, it looks to be,
it's commentary.
Yeah.
Isn't this some of the money we've already delegated to certain areas?
we have, the only money we have actually spent out of that, and, okay, let's back up. we found out a little while ago that we have to create a completely separate bank account for ARPA money. So Susan has rolled out that money that we got, put it in a separate account. That's still that number, that we've never taken anything out of there. Now, we have spent some money to the businesses,
Boat launch and stuff, right?
but we better find out if they qualify. I think the businesses that we did will qualify, but we're gonna have to go get a statement from each one of them to tell us how much money they lost because of COVID.
Or at least documentation from them that says we were forced to close X
Yeah.
amount of time, we were limited to only doing drive-through, carry-out, whatever, so that we can show that there was a hardship and loss, and not necessarily that we have to prove dollar for dollar,
Right.
but we've got to be able to show that. And the other one that we're fine on is the additional pay for election
for the
judges,
workers,
sick
yeah.
leave for our
Right.
employees. And there's 4 categories in there, and that's one of them for that expense. The other thing too, in that is, maybe at our electors meeting, we could pass out a sheet that says, we're going to be talking about this funding and looking for ideas, and here are the criteria which will be allowed, so that we start getting people to focus on what those things are.
Do we have that criteria? I mean,
We pretty much should in the 4.
Chris had something last spring when he
I
first,
think the 4 are, I think I still have that it's like that 67-page document
yeah.
of the preliminary rules, and I think it lays out the 4, you got helping, you can, programs to assist people who are impacted by the COVID, employee aid, and then I forget what the other 2 are.
I have 3 documents that I printed off from treasury.gov
Okay.
related to ARPA funds, and they're all 50 pages or more.
Yeah.
We can at least share the template for what the federal government is looking for in, how
Here we
it
go.
impacts our community.
Mr. Jensen was so kind as to look this up. How cities, and this is for towns too, can use ARPA funds to address the negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, replace lost public sector revenue, provide premium pay for essential workers, and invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So as long as we let people, and there's
And
probably
maybe
some
that's what's
discussion.
on that sheet,
It could
that
be.
we give to the people at the
Right,
elections.
so that they have an idea of what it is that we can.
Well, I mean,
legitimately-
getting back to the original question, I think having a committee is not a bad idea, and you can put some representatives from Oakland Township on it, and then you can start having the committee report back to us on where they're at. And hiring somebody part-time or limited term for this issue alone is not a bad idea.
Yeah, they
No, I
did say at the convention that if you had someone that you employed to do compliance, well, I think we could include report writing in as a compliance duty, and then it should be eligible.
Yeah, and have them focus
And
on
that's,
this.
that's eligible for ARPA funding, correct?
Yeah, I've sent an email off to Jake at the Town Association, but I'm sure he's,
One of 1,500 that he's
yeah,
received.
I mean, those sessions were absolutely packed,
Yeah.
and you couldn't get close to him to ask a question, so.
Otherwise, it just, like you said, the volume of work is so much now that you'll never get it done.
Yeah.
And we might as well hire somebody to help us do
And
it.
and I think the other part that I ask is, can we hire the auditors to help us with the revenue loss? And pay that out of
Right.
ARPA, and I haven't, because what they keep saying is, and I know Susan's gone through kind of once, and you went through with Chris, and it didn't look like we have a loss, but when you apply their rules and their definitions, we probably did. And that money is free to use for roads, whereas the others are
That can be
restricted. So
used in general fund.
Because we were going to use it for Park Road, right? some of that drainage.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things that if we can find that, in fact, we did, by their definition, lose money,
Yeah.
that, we can take that and spend that amount without worrying about all these other things, so to speak.
So do you want a motion to create the committee? Is that what you want?
Well,
At some point in time?
At some point in time, maybe like Jean said, maybe it is too early to form a committee. Maybe we need to do some homework to put ourselves in that position. So the idea of passing out some information to the electors.
And talk about it.
And talk about it some more, so that people kind of know what they're volunteering for.
Right, at that time, we can ask
Right,
if anybody has an interest that they can contact
right,
the office. We may be establishing a committee.
Yeah.
right. The report is due April 30th of '22 right now. That deadline could change depending upon what rules they write.
Yeah,
And
well, it changed 6
Right.
months.
That's the report for what we have spent.
correct, and regardless of whether you spent money or not, you have to submit a report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So everybody has to submit a report.
So we do need
So-
the professional or, to hire someone before that time to do that report?
I
Is that-
have talked a little bit to Jeff Osvog from Johnson Block, and he's given me some, I'm going to say, some activity to put us in a good place. But I mean, no one knows how to write the report because no one's written a report
Yeah.
yet,
And the rules aren't there yet.
and the rules aren't established.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
dealing with interim rules, and until you get the final rules. And that's, so many times they said, don't spend your money till you know what the final rules are. So,
And basically, I've told Susan, I said, don't take any money out of that bank account unless we absolutely need it. Because we do have some reserves we could tap if we come up short in December for paying bills. Until we know exactly what we can do, that money can sit there and draw 0.01% interest.
Well, and we haven't spent a lot of it.
No, we
No,
haven't.
we haven't.
And what we spent, I think is safe. I mean, the economic help we gave to the businesses and the premium pay we gave to the election workers and stuff like that, that was, I'm sure that's legit. But like you said, that's not very much.
You want to put it on next month's meeting then, or you want to wait a month, or what do you want to do?
How about if it is an agenda item at the electors meeting where we pass out information?
That would be a good.
When's that?
We got a set date tonight?
That's the next agenda.
Yeah, that's
item.
next up.
Okay, let's take 19 and put that on the annual meeting agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, next item, discussion of possible action to determine the date, the date of the electors meeting. Typically, we've had that on a regular meeting date, have we not?
Right, and our November meeting is November 16th.
Excuse me.
And we could have the electors meeting like at 6:30 with the town board meeting to follow.
Or we can have the electors meeting at 7, the town board meeting to follow. That's what we
Yep.
typically do.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that, otherwise it's too, you
Yeah.
forget.
Right.
Now come in at 7.
So it's what date?
November 16th.
November 16th, 7 o'clock.
Yep,
Board meeting to follow.
yep.
And don't put a time on the board meeting, because if
Right.
the electors meeting
Could go.
could go long or
that's what,
short.
we have notified them of budget and then this, right? They would
Um,
do the two budgets.
That's where we adapt the levy.
Yeah. so
November, I have to have this posted by November 1st, the
Right.
budget, and that there's going to be an electors meeting,
Okay.
so we will do that.
Okay, correspondence, we got the fire commission minutes.
And then there was a letter from Jefferson County.
And then a letter from Jefferson County that was on your desk regarding a zoning violation at Miss Stillman's property.
Oh, Roxy.
So Roxy is at it. So, next item is approval of disbursements.
I'll make a motion that we,
I didn't put that on.
no, missed.
Where did I do it, Mike?
I'll make a motion, we approve the disbursements, beginning with check number 42519, through and including electronic fund transfer 950-77533, in the aggregate amount of $346,749.40.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve disbursements in the amount of $346,749.40. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.